or members of different families. There's no one that just dropped from heaven and just appeared here. Definitely we came through families. And we've come to realize that as we are members of different families, our environment wherein we live, our various upbringing, and even the significant emotional experiences we've had, while growing up, all these things add up to who we become at the end of the day, add up to who, we are at the end of the day. And today we have someone amazing in the house who will be doing justice, to the topic that we have. She happens to be the Director of Studies at the Institute of Family Engineering and Development. And she's one of the most intentional family life experts. This afternoon, I was looking at your status and I saw you and Oga, doing your yoga, your exercise, and even dancing. And I was just laughing to myself. She is the intellectual property owner of the Architecture of Happiness and the founder of Happify movement. And I have her in the house this afternoon. She has a few things, to share with us. Then at the end of the day, if we have questions, we will be asking her questions. So you have the floor, Ma, to just do, to do justice to the topic we have given to you. Thank you so much. Please, let's go into the chat and just welcome Coach D. Yes, she'll be talking about finding healing within the family. Finding healing within the family. So the floor is open. Madam Dinma, Coach Dinma, Queen of Happiness, everything join. Just do justice to the topic we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ayo Lawrence, and thank you, Ayo Lawrence. Thank you, Tolani. Thank you, House of Saviors, for having me here. Of course, I'm a member of House of Saviors, but I'm on this side to facilitate today's conversation. And for all those people saying, oh, today is Happify Sunday. Yes, let's get some Happify juice rolling. So I'm talking about finding healing in the family. And it's interesting, when Tolani started today's conversation, she asked us to, reflect on the things that we're grateful for. And as I was scrolling through the responses, it was interesting to note that, and I'm not saying this because what we are grateful for is wrong, but I'm just trying to highlight a part of us that we rather would not talk about, a part of us that we may not see the good in it, but we know that when people go through life, trauma happens to all of us, things that would necessitate a need to heal. It's a fundamental part of life. Of course, varying in different degrees and intensities, but then nobody was grateful for the challenge that they had last week. Nobody was grateful for the struggles they struggled through. To say that, even by that exercise, we buttressed how as human beings, we would rather not want to be associated with struggles. We would rather not want to be associated with challenges. But even the challenges that we face as individuals and families is all part of what adds up to the repertoire of wisdom that we have. Which is why sometimes when I say to people, all that you have, you need. If it's somebody who's gone through some pain, physical, emotional, they begin to look at me like, Dinma, don't go there. There are some experiences I rather would not, I don't like that I had. There are some parts of my life that it's hard for me to come to terms with accepting that it was all part of who I am or that I needed. And I think that's a great place to start our conversations today. When we're talking about healing in the family, what exactly are we talking about? And I like that this starts off the conversation on building effective family systems, because whilst we talk about the good to haves, it's important that we also talk about those parts of our lives that we would rather not talk about with someone else, that we want to shut down and bury. And I'm going to try as much as possible in my conversation to take the conversation beyond just us adults, but also taking it down to the children. For some of us here who have adolescents, who have children, it's important that healing is also something that they are introduced to on time so that it becomes a lifestyle and not something they want to run away from, okay? Over years, even when I was still doing family life as a side and then doing it fully, I've interacted with people across different strata of life, different walks of life. And I've seen that family is a pivotal part of what foundation of what forms us as human beings. And that influences our relationships, our work, our business, and everything that we do as a people. You know, sometimes I was joking with someone and I said, Chimamanda Adichie may have written, we should all be feminists. But for me, I think maybe if I'm going to write a book in that direction, I'm going to write, we should all be family life scientists. Because if we can get family right, and even the mental and emotional well-being of members of the family, then we will be able to get every other thing in society right. So there are three fundamentals that I'm going to be basing my conversation on healing the family, and I'll try to make it fast because when I'm talking healing and family, I tend to lose track of time. So first of all, is one fundamental is that you are as flourishing as you are as flourishing as you are mentally and emotionally well. Okay, and if we get that, it means that even every other thing that matters to us in life, family, work, it is that flourishing you that comes into family. And so if you're not flourishing, if there are things in your life that you can't really make sense of, then it's going to affect how you show up in the family. There are three core, the second fundamental that my conversation will go around is that as human beings, we have three core psychological needs. And it is the need for love, it is the need for connection, and it's the need for a sense of belonging. Now, whenever there is a missing of this, either a real missing or an imagined missing of these fundamentals, then we suffer. But more importantly, out of the three, when there is a sense of loss of belonging, we suffer most. And so part of what we're discussing is where does pain come from as human beings? Even when we bring it down to the family circle, it is when there is an apparent lack or insufficient or death of love, of connection, and a sense of belonging, then we begin to suffer some kind of pain that, if not dealt with, can influence every other part of our lives. The third fundamental that we will be going around as we have this conversation is we'll be looking at the need for healing in the family from three perspectives. First of all, it's in the past. Because when we come into family, and if we start from the basic of family, which is the man and woman coming together to start a new nation, and these people are scarred already. They are dealing with trauma from their past. They are dealing with issues that they've not resolved, and they bring it into family. No matter how much they come in bodily, they are not so fully in that relationship because there are layers of stuff from the past that will impact their relationship. If there are things that trauma and pain do to us that impacts our relationship, is that when we go through trauma, it makes us we lose a sense of trust. First of all, in the sense of loss of trust for people, particularly if what has caused us pain is as a result of maybe betrayal or anything that has happened that involved the principal people in our lives. Say, for example, your parents who were supposed to take care of you, you felt a sense of abandonment, or you felt a sense of not belonging. I had a conversation with a lady, and that was really emotionally striking for me. This was someone who was born into a family, and then she had her way of life, her perception of life in terms of her personality was one that didn't sit well with one of the principal members of the family, a parent. And so the parent made her feel less of a human being because she was not acting how the parent expected a girl child to act. And so while she went through life in that family, she got into the first relationship that gave her a sense of belonging, even though there were markers of red flags in that relationship. But anything to just get away of this place where I didn't feel I belonged was okay. But then after she got into that, she began to find out that, you know what? Yes, maybe it took me out of the first level of not feeling a sense of belonging, but I'm here and I'm feeling lost. Yes, they go through the motions of having children, but she was not finding herself until she took the hard, critical decision to quit that relationship. So what I'm saying is that when it comes to family, we need to always check ourselves to know, am I hurting prior to getting engaged, prior to deciding to start a family? Like I say to people, one of the fundamentals that people should go through in courtship is not even talking about, yes, it's okay for us to talk about, oh, how many children we're going to have, where we're going to live and stuff like that. But deeper issues, like that has to deal with, where are you at? You know, what is your heart level? What are the patterns? What is forming the decisions that you make? Because trust me, if you don't heal before you get into marriage, you're going to still be that person who comes into the marriage and is still not going to be you running the show. That trauma and that pain will essentially still run your life. And so if we look at it in the present, different things can cause pain and hurt to us. The ones that we didn't bargain for, the ones that life will throw at us. Look at the Nigerian situation. There's a collective trauma going on. And so, yes, that might not be your making, but you are Nigerian, and so you're going to take part of it. So those are some kind of pain and trauma that you didn't bargain for. Again, realizing that in a family, we are mixed up of people of different personalities, people of different backgrounds, people who have interpreted life based on what they went through in their upbringing, what society has fed them, either cultural expectations of man or woman, and all of the likes forms them. And so you come into even a loving relationship, and your spouse will do something that will knock you off, that will hurt you, that if not addressed, can still graduate to unresolved trauma, which messes up your life in the present. So I like to say, as much as in the past, when we're dating and we're preparing to get married, we should go for healing so that we come into the marriage as people who don't come with baggages that are weighing us down, but we have transformed whatever pain happened to us, and we are left with the wisdom from them and the life lessons. Because that's when healing has truly happened. Even when the trigger comes, not that you forget it cognitively, but you're tapping from it the life lessons and the wisdom from it. In the same manner, in the family, in the present, every family should have a system where they are able to check in on themselves, personally, individually, and then checking on their relationships, husband and wife, and checking on the members of the family, husband, wife, and children, and checking on the horizontal level, sibling and sibling, to know if there are any thoughts, any bitterness, any resentment that you may be feeling towards any member of the family. And how can you do that? It's making it a system. Having in your family a ritual or a routine where there is a time set apart for you as an individual to practice mindfulness, to just sit with yourself and say, what's going on with me? What happened this week? What is not making sense to me? What is hurting me? And then if you are able to find out what is hurting you, sitting with it to know really what about it is hurting you, it's the first step for you to get healing presently. And then having a system in the home where the children can talk freely with themselves, normalizing emotions. Let me just break this table here. You know, we talk about, oh, don't involve your emotions or keep emotions away and all of that. I want to say something critically. Systems function with emotions because human beings are emotional beings. So even if you have a system in your home, if you do not normalize that people have the right to feel what they feel, even though you know that feelings are not the facts, that is the only time you can create a safe space. I talked about healing in the home and again about my work with people and seeing that fundamentally people who can have conversations in the workplace, people who cannot stand up for what they believe in, fundamentally starts from the home, where they were made to feel like there's something wrong with you if you don't like something that every other person likes or you have a different opinion from others. And it goes to the kind of attachment style that is predominant in our homes. Is it a secure attachment? Is it an insecure attachment? Do members of the family feel safe, feel seen, feel suited and secure? Because if that is not fundamentally existing in the family, then we're going to just be talking around the circle on healing. Because how do you heal somebody who you laugh at why they are feeling different? How do you talk about healing to somebody who cannot say how they are feeling without somebody coming up with a defense to defend why you shouldn't feel that way? So if we're going to talk healing, then our homes must be safe spaces where people can truly be vulnerable with you just sitting and listening. You know, I'll tell you a typical story. So my family, impact is one of the core values. Impact is one of our core values and fun is one of our core values, right? So as a given, when probably we have situations or we'll deal with stuff or we are engaging in the way we engage, I like to preserve the memories in pictures. And because of also the impact value, we like to also share with people, both the good, the bad, the ugly, just the realness of the Dinma Nwobi, right? And one day we're talking values, and one of our daughters said to us, it's interesting that we talk about values in this home and everybody knows each other's values, but I kind of feel that you're not honoring my value of privacy because privacy is a value for her, right? You don't honor my value of privacy when we don't talk about it and you just assume that I've given express approval for you to share a video we did or something you did. And that just struck me to say that, yes, we all combined as a family know that our mission as a family is to raise other happy families. And we all combined agree that we'll be sharing our life story to inspire and educate. But this young girl felt violated. It's not for me. If healing is going to be institutionalized in the home, it's not to say, why are you saying that? After all, did you not agree? Did we not create the family value? It's to recognize that she's feeling violated. And so I'm saying this because it is a critical conversation in many African homes. It doesn't matter that somebody said yes yesterday. If I say no today, you don't question my no today because you're assuming that my yes of yesterday should supersede whatever is happening right now. That's very critical. Because when things happen, we'll file them away in our subconscious. They begin to rule our lives without us knowing it. And then we're talking about the future impacts of emotional pain and all of that. And if not healed, how does it impact us in the future? Okay. So what are we talking when we say healing in the family? Is to say that every member of our families should have a flourishing mental and emotional well-being. And if that is the case, let me make some basics for us here. When we talk about trauma and pain, it's important for us to know that we all get traumatized, right? We all face one pain or the other that requires healing, and we all respond to it differently. You know, when the Nigeria election situation was happening, I was getting people say to me, Dinma, how is it that some people have moved on? Like the results came, I can't even function for 1 week. And I'm seeing people have gotten back into work and it's like nothing happened. For some people, they began to feel anger towards the man who looks like he has moved on. But then, are we saying that when nobody's talking? I had to say to the person, you know what? We deal with trauma differently. We deal with pain differently. If somebody has moved on and you're struggling not to move on, it's okay. You don't want to judge yourself by the other person, but you don't also want to be bitter about the other person, okay? So I've normalized the fact that we should have rituals in our homes that lets us to talk about the things we are dealing with, so that we can address them before they become major obstacles to even our well-being. Interestingly, why it is important that healing it's a given, like it's a conversation, the same way we talk about values, the same way we talk about communication, the same way we talk about growing intimacy, having conversations around healing in the family, it should be normalized like normal eating bread and sardine. I don't know the metaphor to use, because unresolved issues is killing every member of that family slowly. I want to make this as much as relatable and not bring so much of scientific jargons, but let me just tell you a bit about what happens when there is pain, in our brains, when there is something we're dealing with and we don't have that safe space to talk about it and to discuss it. We've actually seen from brain scans that it changes the structure and even the function of our brain. Because for such a person, the emotional brain is on auto drive. And so it's working over time, if I'm going to put it that way. And because of that, it increases the wear and tear on the body. And so notice, for example, if your family has gone through any corporate pain, for example, maybe the loss of a loved one, and everybody is dealing with it, have you noticed that at such times, there is a seeming decrease in the immunity of the family members? Because you're dealing with the pain, maybe that's when somebody falls ill, another person falls ill, and all of that. If somebody can relate, please let me see your chat, your affirmations in the chat room. To say that unresolved pain actually destroys our body cells, actually is killing us softly. One lady said to me in the last From Pain to Power bootcamp, she could associate with talking about unresolved pain having bodily manifestation, because she said that she was having constant back pain. And then she kept going to the GP, and one person who she was praying with or something, I can't remember how the story goes, said to her, you know what, it's unresolved pain and issues that is actually stored there that is impacting your health. And so talk about even our children being able to do well academically, being able to socialize, being able to function as human beings should function. It is compromised and declining if we do not make healing a conversation that we'll have at home. And again, we all have different trauma responses. So what I'm charging us to do today is, there's one fundamental question I used to ask people to ask their spouses, so we can take it around the family, to say, is there any part of you that is dying because you are married to me? Is there any part of you that is dying because you are a member of this family? And then to have that conversation, not in that sense of, let me wait to see what they will say, and then I'll know what to respond, but truly because you are desirous that, you know what, this home is one that normalizes emotional well-being. This home is one that normalizes mental well-being. This home is one in which we want to raise people who can flourish, first of all, in themselves, so that it can cascade to the other areas of their lives. Again, somebody might be listening to me, and probably you can associate with the past pain in your life and you've not healed, and you're wondering, is that how doomed I am? I like to say to people, you don't have to be 100% healed to really function effectively. I put it that you don't have to be 100% healed to get your groove back, but you must be on that quest to know what is it that is driving your life. So basic question, do you feel like your life is functioning the way it ought to function? When you think about your dreams about yourselves, when you think about where you presently are, when you think about even how you wake up and the state you are in. One lady said to me, Dinma, when I wake up and I notice that I'm awake, like she opens her eyes and she sees, oh, she's awake, that reminds her she's still alive. And that makes her feel bad because she was silently wishing that she will pass away in her sleep because she didn't want to wake up and deal with the stuff she's still dealing with. Especially in homes where people do not feel that they belong. And so if somebody is functioning in those homes, you could have any of the characteristic trauma responses. Maybe you find yourself, you're always fighting. Now, fighting may not be physical fighting, but you are always in that anger rage state where everything is like, there's an outburst, like you're quick to give an outburst. Right? You're always in that rage state. Like somebody says something, you respond immediately because the drive in your emotional brain, which is compromising your rational brain, is just fight back, right? Whilst we know that we can fight back in a productive way, but are you beginning to see yourself as somebody who is always quick to pick a fight? Either with your spouse, either with your children, either outside. That might be a marker that there is something you need to heal from that you've not yet addressed. Or perhaps you find yourself that you're always fleeing. Interestingly, people that show up in this kind of trauma responses, some of us outside who do not know what they are dealing with, kind of like hail them for their high work ethic. And so I was listening to an influencer share how, because of and this, of course, we know that trauma can be different things, right? The pain can come from different sources, either the source of loss of expectation, your life not going the way you wanted, your prayers not being answered, your children not progressing how you want them, your relationship not giving you the kind of joy that you felt, whatever it is that causes you pain, that when you remember it, there's that ache in your heart that can be equated to the trauma that you're dealing with that you need to heal from. And so this influencer was talking about one particular pain that she was dealing with. And then the way she would respond to it was to plunge herself to work. And everybody's like, hey, she's churning out content. She's always on. She's doing this work. She's doing that work. That was her trauma response. Meanwhile, she was dying inside and had not dealt with it. So sometimes addictions, that sense of perfectionism, wanting to always be busy, can be like the cocaine you are smoking to hide that pain because you are maxing your pain with being overly active. That's a flight response, okay? But for you, some other person could be that you are in that zone. What you do is to just freeze. Things happen, you shut down. You disassociate with everyone. You want to alienate yourself from people. You want to alienate yourself from even social gatherings that you ordinarily go to. And you want to be marking these responses, not only for you as the adults, but also for your children. Because when your child begins to give outbursts of anger, whilst you may want to do anger management, it's important for you to know what is beneath this. Because I like to remind people that the responses we give are just a tip of the iceberg. There are things that are driving those responses underneath, that until you begin to dig deep, you might not know what is funding it. So do you have a child? I consulted with a mother and the child will just throw tantrums. And so she got tired of having to deal with that and she wanted intervention. And so when we began to talk about it, that was this young boy's way of exercising his displeasure with how things were going on in the home. And so, of course, we started to deal with that from that informed knowledge of what is happening underneath. I want to run, so I might not be taking them, going deeper and deeper. But I just want you to know the characteristics way that we could be responding to pain in our lives that you need to watch out for in yourself and even in the people in your family so that you know how to help them. And so for this freezing, for the freeze, whatever, you just want to shut down. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to associate yourself with people. You don't want to even do the things that ordinarily give you joy. You're just going around the motions of life. You know, you see people show up at work, you think all is well. No, we could all have this whole makeup, but then we're dealing with things on a deeper level, right? Another one, which I see again, is where we just succumb to pleasing. And okay, let me not share the story, but let me move on. And you just want to please the people around you. Like your spouse says this, okay, but meanwhile, you're neglecting your self-care. You're not speaking to your own needs. You're just wanting to maintain peace, but there's no peace. I think that is one of those responses that really eats deep into the marrow of a person, because you are seeing yourself disappearing. You are seeing yourself not existing. But then it's your way of maxing pain because you don't know what else to do. And so look out for these characteristics. And like I said, how you can find that is to embrace mindfulness. Like if there's anyone who has been a member of House of Saviors and you don't have a routine in your life where you can sit down with yourself and say, what happened to me today? What went wrong? What went right? What emotions did I feel today? What are my emotions trying to tell me? What thoughts came to my head today? What are those thoughts trying to say to me? If you don't have a ritual like that, I don't know how you're going to save nobody, because you need to first of all be aware of the markers of your life and the things that drive your decisions before you can be a savior in yourself, in your family, and to anybody for that matter. And so I've seen people who are in families who go through pain, and then there are certain mistakes that they make that actually sabotages their healing, which I think is important we have in this conversation, because it's going to help us tie things together. And I kind of feel that the chat room is so lonely. I don't know is it that nobody's listening to me? What I'm saying is not making sense. It's making too much sense that you are not you are overwhelmed. I need to hear a human being talk to me. Let me know what's happening. So what's going on in your head, even as we're having this conversation? Anyone? If you're making any connections, if there's anything that is coming to your brain, I want to hear somebody. Adetone says loud and clear, is making a lot. Hey, now you people should be talking. So I'm like, Dinma, you just rapping to yourself? Are these people here? Is it making sense? Are they connecting? Okay, let me see, it's digesting. All right, Florence said, I max my pain with my work. It's fine, and I salute your awareness, because that's the start of your transformation. If you don't know how you're dealing with it, you won't know what to do differently. So Florence, stay with me. And I'm hoping as my time is wrapping up, I will be able to help you make some connections that can help you, do better. Okay, so as Florence has identified how she might be maxing her pain, any other person, do you see a typical response for you? At the Pain to Power Bootcamp, somebody was saying, Dinma, I see myself in all of these trauma responses. And I said, it's fine. Because, and I want us to establish something. It's not that these responses are in themselves bad, right? Because that's typically what your emotional brain will trigger you to do in the face of danger as a survival mechanism, okay? So let's establish that. They are not in themselves bad. It is now when they begin to control you that you are not able to function how you ought to function. Like when you neglect the humanity in you and you're just raging in fight mode, you're just fleeing. And rather than confront the issue, you want to max it with work, or you are frozen, you shut down, but again, when you shut down, it hampers those 3 core psychological whatever. So it is when these trauma responses start to, I wanted to say traumatize your life, start to sabotage your life. That's when it becomes a problem. So it's important we say that. So Adiola says auditing of life. Fantastic. So what are some of the things that could delay our healing that we need to pay attention to, that can sabotage our healing and can further sabotage our well-being? If we have established that when we are dealing with pain, when there are unresolved pain from our past, in our present, and we don't address them, by sitting with them, even though they are discomforting, that they are actually killing us slowly because they are impacting our rational brain in a way that we can't tap into our intellectual reserves the way we should. Our social reserves, nothing. Psychologically, nothing. So it's actually destroying our brain, all right? And then, of course, it is killing us health-wise because unresolved trauma stores as toxins in our bodies that can predispose us to some certain classes of cancer and the rest. But that's not what we're here for today. But just know that unresolved trauma is killing anyone who is not addressing it slowly and surely. So one of the things that could delay healing that is important we mention when we're talking about finding healing in the home is that we want to heal instantly. Like your spouse, even in the basic, if we don't go deeper into trauma, the basic misunderstanding in the family, somebody does something that is hurting to you. A lady said to me the other day, Dinma, I knew that decision my husband wanted to take was going to end badly. But then he took it. And then we plunged a good amount of our family savings into it. And that business crumbled, even though I saw all of the markers as somebody that was financially more intelligent. And she said to me that this is paining me. Like I can't even find myself to get over it. I understand. Every pain is valid, but sometimes we want to heal instantly, but it's not like that because healing is not a linear process. I wish everybody would know this, that no matter how much aware you are, some days you wake up and it's so light, other days it could just get too much and then you suffer a meltdown. It's still part of the healing process, right? Somebody who was raped, I'll give a classic example. So there was a case of a couple who had a case of infidelity. And then one of the spouses said to me when they came for consultation call, I don't know why this partner of mine is being this way. Like this thing has taken so long and I've apologized. I've done this, I've done that. Why is it taking he or she too long to heal? And the partner who maybe some of us would not expect that man would cry, the partner broke down and said, like, you hurt me, and then you are giving me a time frame for my healing. I don't get it. Like, you don't get to hurt me and then get to determine for me when I should heal. And so I recognize why he broke down, because the other partner was thinking, okay, I've apologized. You said we should go for coaching. We have come for coaching. You said we should do this. I've tried to make peace. Please, if you hurt somebody, can you allow the person process the pain and heal at their pace? Knowing that healing is not linear and your intensity of pain for a certain level of hurt may be different from mine. So I may recover quickly when you lie to me. But some other person who honesty is a top value for will struggle to bounce back at that same speed. Okay, so that for our spouses and for our children is important that we know that. The second thing we need to know in terms of the things that sabotage our healing is that you want to heal, but you don't want any process that will remind you of the pain. Like I'm wondering, you have a wound on your hand. You want to treat the wound, but you don't want to touch the wound. How do you treat a wound on your body if you're not going to have to like maybe touch it, apply spirit or whatever? So to say that, as discomforting as any pain is important that you are able to sit with the discomfort. Go through a process that might help you confront the pain, but knowing that you need to do that to heal is critical. And as family members, when a member is hurting from a pain, it's important that you supply them with the necessary support and resources to go through their healing process. So I'll share a story. So a family member of ours was going through a tough time, right? And then what did we do? We had to assemble all of the resources we knew. We got her a therapist to work with her. because of course there were things I could do as a mother who could also do the therapies, but you know that it's not ethical for me to work with a child of mine. And so we got a therapist, we paid for the sessions for the therapist to work with her. We supported her with home stuff. At times where she would have a breakdown, because I'm not sharing details because I don't have express permission to share details, but at times where there is a breakdown, we also made ourselves available. Now the healing process is still on. I know the processes we've done. It has graduated to insomnia. Like, I'm sharing resources, I'm sharing approaches with her to help her heal so that she can have a better sleep pattern. But then we're still navigating that. I'm not going to say, hey, I'm here for you. I've done everything. I've done these processes for other people who are not my children, and they followed through with it and they got their issues resolved. I'm going to give up on you. No, because I recognize that it's a process. It might take me 3 months to go through it. It might take her 1 year, but I'm going to be available. We will support her. We'll give her all of the resources we can. But fundamentally, it's still on our table to apply radical self-responsibility. And this can be challenging for us as parents. Ayo, please be reminding me of time, because I could go on and on talking about this. So just let me know the time I have, and then I know how to pace myself. And this reminds me of it. I was on Third Mainland Bridge last week, and I got a call from a mother. Of course, if you're in Lagos, you know that sometimes when you're on Third Mainland Bridge, the network ceases, especially when it's a WhatsApp call. And all I could hear from the other end was that, Dinma, I'm sending my account number. I'm sending my account number. Please refund me the money. Refund. And I'm like, what is happening? So this was a mother who had sought intervention for her son who was dealing with stuff. And then we've done the consultation. I've mapped out the plan of what to work with the young guy, and the mother had paid, and then the guy has not showed up for even his first session. Then I send a follow-up, whatever, and he keeps saying, oh, I'll book the session. And so that day that the mother called me, she had a face-off with him. And the young boy was that, is it because you're the one that paid for the sessions? That's why I will not hear word. And the mother was livid. She's like, I'm done. He should deal with his life. I don't know if you're in that space, even with a partner, a child, or even with yourself. I like to say, cut them some slack. Like, knowing that their brains have responded to this trauma in a certain way for a very long time is going to also take a process for them to come out of it. So I'm normalizing compassion. Compassion towards yourself, not to feel guilt that you're not doing enough if you've done all that you can do, like this mother has done, but compassion again for the sufferer, knowing that if he's done this way and has been this way for so long, it's going to take not just the shout, not just the aggressive push, but love ultimately is what will lead the person to a change that they so desire. So I don't know who needed to hear that. I just felt I should share that story. Again, sometimes we want the pain to go away. If we wish that the pain will go away if we ignore it. I've had conversations with people in this month of March, maybe because I've been focusing on healing for women all through March. And a couple of them have said to me, Dinma, this mistake resonates with me. Like, I just ignore it. I just numb on the pain. And I'm wishing that, okay, if I ignore it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it will go away. Trauma is like physical wound. It will not heal without proper care. And if you ignore it, it might fester and spread just like cancer spreads, and it will impact everything that is important to you. And I'm going to share the story, and it's one story that breaks my heart. So this young person, right, grew up in a home where there was marked signs of abandonment, right? And then he cruises through life. That's what he told me. He said, I cruised through life. He got into university. He cruised through university. He got a job, and he was just going through the motions. Sometimes because we are moving, maybe forward, like a young person who gets married, who has children, we kind of feel that the pain has gone. But remember, your subconscious is stored as a file in your subconscious, and your subconscious remembers it. Something happens unrelated to this pain. One day at work for a 37-year-old man, and boom, it brings everything he has numbed and ignored all this while to the surface. Because he was thinking, because I wasn't attending to it, because I wasn't speaking to it, and because I have been progressing, like I fell in love, I got married, I got a job, maybe the impact of that has gone away with it. I'm sorry, it's not gone away. You know how we play beach ball in the beach ball effect in the swimming pool, for example, and then you have this ball and you're pressing it, you keep pressing it down, you keep pressing it down. There is a time and chance. Is either you no longer have the mental and emotional will or even the power to keep pressing it, and it just comes showing up at the most unexpected places, in the most unexpected circumstances, and you just go down. You suffer a meltdown. You suffer just critically crashing. That was what happened to that guy. And so I like to say to you, if there are things that are yet unspoken for, undealt with, baggages that you've carried and you felt like, oh, I've addressed that. You've not addressed nothing, okay? Because one day it's going to show up, and if you don't address it, it is still going to impact your life in ways you may not expect. Unconsciously even. Story number 2, working with a lady who cannot, for the life of her, understand why her partner is this way with her. Like, I'm literally doing everything to make this marriage work, even pleasing my partner in areas where I know I'm not at fault, taking the fall for things that are not mine. And then she's wondering, why is this person incapable of loving me the way I want to be loved? Why is this person incapable of building the systems? Because we're talking family systems. And if you don't deal with the things in your life, you might be going mechanically on systems, but they can't function if you're not flourishing enough to bring a whole person into the equation. And then when we started the work, she came to realize that the spouse himself was an embodiment of trauma, dealing with issues that were associated with him being an adopted child, adopted in the sense that the mother remarried, not adopted, the mother remarried, and then took him to her new marriage. And so even in the new marriage, he was still feeling like an outsider. Remember what I said about sense of belonging being the critical thing that we all desire as human beings. And so in that new marriage, he still felt as an outsider. And even, mark my word, that the new husband of the mother did what he could do to integrate him into the family, so long as he kept that interpretation of his place in the marriage in the new home as an outsider. It kept running his life. That he came into marriage and the wife was doing everything to please him. But this is a man who has not dealt with the baggages in his life. And so he could not even be the husband she expected him to be. So sometimes I say to people, the people we are thinking are traumatizing us are traumatized themselves. And so that's why it's important we make emotional healing, emotional well-being a normal conversation in our homes, where people are able to talk about their pains, just so that you can understand this person, first of all, before you can build systems with this person. And to normalize therapy as a way of life. Not because I am weak, not because I don't know how to deal with my issues, but sometimes you are so emotionally and everything vested in the issue that you cannot see clearly. okay, that you need somebody who is outside of that situation to moderate how you're looking at it so that you can pick the lessons from it. Because when you are in the subject matter, there's so much sentiment around it that you can't see clearly. And so even if I ask, as a family, how open are you to family therapy? Like, you want to just sit with somebody as a family unit, and then everybody is able to talk about what they're dealing with and how they can, increase their flourishing and mental well-being. So as much as we talk about having marriage coaches, having comprehensive health checks, every family should have a mental well-being check periodically, at least every 6 months, so that we're sure that we're not just bodies moving, but we are really human beings who are integrated in our mind, our bodies, and our spirits, and are making progress. So some family routines and rituals that you want to think about. I talked about mindfulness as a person and as a family. Of course, we can't talk about family healing, finding healing in the family without normalizing family meetings. The structured, I talk of family meetings in 2 terms. Are you still there? The structured one that is proactive, that as a family, maybe we have meetings once every month, and then we have our reviews once every quarter. That is the proactive system in terms of your communication system as a family. That is fine. Then there is the family meeting that is in the moment family meeting that can be called by any member of the family to address any issue. Such are also parameters that, when it is in place, also heightens healing in the home, because we don't pile up things. We don't pile up issues. We talk about it when we need to talk about it, and we listen. Not listening to respond, not listening to fault find, not listening to justify, but listening to understand. Because even what the person is saying is a pain to them may not make sense to you, but it is a pain for the person because it's a pain to the person. And so to invalidate that is a pain to me would make me not talk about my feelings another day. So I keep bottling it. I am susceptible to all of these destructive trauma responses, and it's affecting every part of my life, not only in the family, but outside the family. Okay? So that's one way. Second way is we want to begin to have conversations in our homes that deal with how the human brain functions. I'm not saying you should turn everyone in your house as to neuroscientists, but it's important that we recognize that things do not hurt us just on the merits of the things, but it hurts us based on our interpretations, our expectations, and the attributions we give to the events, right? Again, not to sound insensitive, there are certain things that could hurt us intensely that is based on the events. So say, for example, you lose a child. The loss of a child, or a loved one, the loss of a loved one on its own merits it is a pain on its own, right? I don't know, somebody needs to get me, let me know you're understanding that. To say that you don't need necessarily to have an associated expectation or associated interpretation of that loss. On the merit of the intensity of the pain, it can weigh you down. Those exceptions are there. However, aside from those expectations, when things happen, it's not necessarily those things that directly impact our consequences, the emotions we feel and what we do. It is actually our interpretations of them. And those interpretations are based on our values and our beliefs. So every member of House of Savior in your household, conversations around the triangle of life, how beliefs impact our behaviors and impact our outcomes, is not a reserve for your professional office. It is not only a conversation you have when you are dealing with clients. It's a normalized conversation in your family. that your child, as a child of a House of Savior member, must understand the place of thoughts and emotions and how they impact their behaviors and their outcomes as a normal conversation. Because it is when they do that, think about you as an adult, when you came to realize the self-fulfilling prophecy of how my way of thinking impacts my beliefs and impacts my outcome. Can you remember what it did for you in terms of, that is not what you want for your child, to get to 25, to get to 35, to get to 40, and begin to understand that I can actually predict my income by first fixing my beliefs. It's a conversation that should be normalized. So if it's not yet normalized in your home, and we're talking about finding healing in the home, you need to put it into your family educational curriculum, having those conversations. And if it needs you to invite an expert to have a Lawrence family coaching session, a Dinma Nwobi family coaching session on this, it's as important as that. Because if your child understands this, then a lot of the things we've talked about in healing and even how their lives can be, it's a lifestyle. So one of our daughters struggled with mathematics, right? And then her struggle with mathematics had to do with some fundamental lying beliefs around people being in humanities and mathematics. Of course, it had environment contributed, but because somewhere along the line, some teachers made them feel like it was those in the science classes who were the mathematicians. And so she internalized that. And then when the struggle started, I started to have conversations around with her, and we began to look at, what do you believe about yourself and mathematics to start from? Because we got her a math teacher. And then even with the math teacher who started her from the basics again, there were still some issues. And I said, Dinma, of course, you should know where this is coming from. Let's fix the beliefs. And so we started a belief work, and she had to do a belief change and began to, because when your beliefs are not serving you, and they go through that triangle and come back to affirm the beliefs, then it concretizes it even the more. And that's why even in healing, some of the reasons why you're struggling to heal, or that is even causing you the most pain, is because fundamentally there are some beliefs that are funding that pain that is not serving you. And so if you don't identify them and deal with them, and not just replace them verbally, but go through the structure of replacing them in a practical way, you're still going to be back to square one. So what am I saying? In finding healing as a family, please normalize conversations around getting to the root of the matter. Your children should be able to know the typical thinking traps that they fall under, because everything starts from the mind. If you're defeated in the mind, if you're wounded in the mind, if you're traumatized in the mind, it's going to impact every other part of your life. And so I'm saying that in addition to mindfulness being practiced in the home, in addition to normalizing conversations around what we're dealing with, it's also normalizing the need that your family members should know the interplay between beliefs, beliefs, behaviors, and outcomes. So maybe out of curiosity, think about that area of life that a child of yours is dealing with. Think about that area of life that you're trying to navigate as a family, and just ask everybody to, take a 7 days, like a mindfulness practice, the self-insight technique, and to just sit and write all their thoughts, all the associated thoughts around that area of their life, all the associated thoughts around that thing they're struggling with. So somebody was dealing with social anxiety, and I'm like, okay, can we just do this for the next 7 days? Can you tell me all the thoughts that come to your mind when you think about yourself, when you think about yourself in relationship with others, when you think about yourself in social spaces, when you think about, and the list goes on and on. And then she realized that what was even making her feel socially awkward was the fact that at some point in her life, she was there was this oversensitive chemical activities electrical activities in her brain that made her have seizures. And so because of those seizures, which she had as a child, that had stopped happening when she was about, did she say 8 or 10 years? And this person I'm talking to you about is 28. But she was still feeling socially awkward and not knowing why she was that way until she made the connection that it was those beliefs and thoughts she had associated with her being prone to seizures that made her socially awkward as a 28-year-old girl who hadn't had seizures for 20 years plus. So what am I saying essentially is that we need to normalize conversations around what's going on in our head. Because like Shakespeare said, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So your home, like I said, like Chimamanda said, we should all be feminists. I think that we should all be family life scientists, because if we are able to understand how we're structured as human beings, the impacts of the interplay of our bodies, our souls, and our spirits, and then being open and vulnerable to create safe spaces in our homes where people can talk about what they're dealing with, where we can get expert care for any member of our family, be it an 8-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 60-year-old. 2 weeks ago, somebody booked a consultation call for her mother, who is 67. And it was interesting. She said, I just want her to talk to someone because there's stuff she's dealing with that I think she needs help. So all through the clock, from cradle to adulthood to senior citizens, there is always a need for us to look through our lives. And if there are things that are not jiving, there are things that are not connected, then we need to quickly activate getting the help we need and normalizing seeking healing in our homes, because ultimately it is a flourishing person who comes forth from a home that can flourish and make any impact of saving self, family, and humanity. I think I'll pause there, and if there are questions, I will take the questions.
Thank you so much, Dinma. Thank you. That was quite enriching and so impactful. I think I have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Yes, that would like us to look at. But before we do that, there's one I have here. How can families promote harmony? How can families promote harmony? Maybe just give us points. Just give us like points, what we can do to promote harmony in the home.
How can families promote harmony? Harmony is that sense of flourishing. Harmony is that sense of inner peace, first of all, individually and collectively, right? So to promote harmony is in line with what I've spoken about. First of all, it's to set, I'm an advocate of intentional living. Like, I think I was listening to what was playing when I came on, and Tony Robbins was saying, if you stay prepared, you don't have to prepare. And so as families, we should have rituals and routines that promote personal and community harmony. And those are stuff like finding out the things that recharge us bodily. As mundane as it might be, just applying the reds to our physical well-being, rest, exercise, diet, and sleep, it's already promoting harmony, because you need your body to function effectively. So rituals like we practice today, I wanted to talk about that, but it escaped my mind. I like to call it the victory board, where you have, okay, so in my family, we have somewhere we call the manifestation room, right? And so in that manifestation room, everybody has their vision boards, like what you're working towards, and the victory board. So that is also what keeps you in check in terms of when maybe a goal is not met, things are not happening, and we are so wired to fixate on the negatives. You will wire your brain to remember the good by taking a look at your victory board. So it's just gratitude. So if I'm going to answer your question directly, it's having intentional rituals and routine that speak to your personal and community flourishing. So I talked about the body parts, all of the reds, like somebody said. The mind and soul part. What I talked about, mindfulness is a route to harmony. Because if you don't know who you are, where you are at, and what you need to be focusing on, how do you create harmony? You know, attending to the need of your soul, speaking with a friend, having rituals in the home where we can sit together, not necessarily because we want to discipline somebody to say, so to say, but just to enjoy our company. You know, having playtime as a family, having purpose time where everybody talks about, I could go on and on. My daughter in university is at a point where she's trying to define a career path. And she said to me, she's making connection what she wants to do in the future. And she asked me, like, it was interesting she was doing that. And she remembered that what she is now focusing on as a career path was something that showed up in her legacy board years back. So one of the rituals was, okay, so when you are setting goals, you set your community contribution, your legacy goal. And she randomly, as a secondary, I think she was in JS1 then, set a legacy goal. But right now in the university in 200 level, the clock has come back. Her career is the legacy goal. She didn't make the connection till she looked at her books. And she's like, this has remained consistent. So I'm using this story to say that start your children early in the things that speak to personal and corporate flourishing. And don't just make it, don't be like when somebody wants to choose a career, is then you're talking career, you're talking strengths, you're talking values. If it's a lifestyle, it grows on them. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Have it as rituals and routines, and let's stop fire brigade method. That's what we do as Africans, last minute things.
Okay, thank you so much. We have this question. I think that's the only one we have for now. How does one handle the case of a sister whose husband is a narcissist, has been for all the 23 years of marriage, no children yet, and the woman is tired of being ordered around and being treated like trash, like she said?
Okay, Adenike, thank you for that question. I'll start first of all by asking a question. When we say that the man is a narcissist, has the man been clinically diagnosed as being a narcissist? And I know why I say that. That is not to invalidate whatever is happening, and probably some literature that maybe the wife knows that makes her associated with that. So first of all, if the man has been diagnosed as a narcissist, that's first, because we need to know that even in this age that there's so much awareness of mental health, we throw words around without even noticing what we're saying. This is not for you, Adenike. I'm using your question to, to throw a point. Like you hear somebody say, I'm depressed. I'm like, calm down first, calm down. Like, did you take some evaluations? Yes, we could have depressive moods, but for you to classify as being depressed, then you need to have been evaluated by a mental health professional and classified as depressed. So having established that, okay.
She doesn't think so.
I think she related the issues to definition she found on the net, which is okay, but I wanted to establish that. So for this person, and my heart goes to anybody who is in a relationship of 23 years with someone, whether clinically diagnosed or even showing some characteristics, traits of narcissism, my heart goes to you for the resilience to have stayed 23 years. So they don't have any children yet. The woman is tired. But then Adenike asking me, how do we handle that? Takes me back to the woman. What does the woman want? I can choose for her what she wants. Do you want to stay in the relationship with this supposed narcissist? And if that is what you want, then how to stay in the relationship without being consumed, without losing your identity, without losing the essence of yourself, and still being able to do the things that make life meaningful for you, then becomes the focus. And if that is the focus, every experience has a structure. There is a way of living in an unfriendly, unloving relationship without being consumed. That's what she needs to submit herself to. And that is what she needs to learn. So that first of all, she comes to that place of radical self-acceptance and heals from whatever associated pain that situation has brought for her. And then she now moves to radical self-mastery. How am I going to be a complete and whole person in this relationship? This is assuming that she wants to stay in the relationship. And from that moment, she begins to now look at, how do I express myself as a human being? Of course, the marriage is a fundamental part of her, how she's showing up in the world, but the marriage is not her, because she's much more than the marriage. So it's first of all to speak to the human in her and find expression for herself if she chooses to stay in that marriage, because you can actually stay in an unloving marriage and not lose yourself if you understand how. Then if the other case is like she's tired and she does not want to remain in the marriage, then the exit strategy is what she would need to learn. So all I'm saying that per time, the people in situations, we work with them based on what they want to achieve, and then you help them to achieve what they want to achieve. That gives them the ultimate peace and bliss that they need as human beings.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. We have two questions here. I think one from Olajide. How best can I handle socio-religious balance in a home, especially where personal beliefs are conflicting?
Okay, Olajide, thank you for that question. So we have what we call the beliefs compatibility evaluation. Okay, so I'm going to just give a background to say that when people choose to do any form of partnership, which marriage is a partnership, there is a need for an alignment of core beliefs. Because if you recognize again how I said that our beliefs drive our behaviors and give us our ultimate outcomes. So the outcomes you want in a marriage, if there's no alignment of beliefs by the principal people in the marriage, mainly the husband and the wife, there's going to be an issue, because they will struggle in achieving their common desired outcomes because they are operating from different foundational levels. So when it comes to that, it's important that you identify the areas in your marriage that you have incompatible beliefs. So you're talking about socio-religious balance in the home. So identify where are those places that your personal beliefs are conflicting, and you list them out. Sometimes, so I'll take you 2-3 steps that can help you quickly. So you list them out. And when you are listing them out, please remember that the first approach you embody in any situation is curiosity. Don't come into the situation with a bias, with a predetermined judgment, because even if you fake it, that you don't have a predetermined judgment, your mannerism will betray you. So you're just curious. Let's even list these beliefs that we have that are conflicting, right? And then we want to trace the roots of the beliefs. Where do those beliefs come from? Is it from home? Is it from society? Is it from religion? Is it from social media? There are different places that a belief can originate from. I've seen people, when we do this exercise and I ask them the third question, they begin to realize that this belief that has caused friction in their marriage, they don't even know where the belief came from. They are not even aware. Their forefathers did not consult them when they made those beliefs. And here you are. I said to somebody, like, what do you desire in marriage? And they listed. So the problem is this belief. Where is this belief from? He said, that's my culture. That's my culture. And I said to her, can you allow yourself, just imagine that the people who made this culture that you're holding on to, that is causing you problem in 2023, long dead forefathers, right? Who do not have the resources you have now, the awareness you have now, that even then your forefathers that made that decision were killing twins because they believed they were evil spirits and they were an omen. Just imagine that you're deciding to run your life based on the thoughts of a man that had this kind of. What do you think? Sometimes it even makes you look like you're stupid because you don't even understand what was happening then. Then you want to bring it to religion. And this becomes a bit dicey because of how people suspend thinking when we bring religion in. And this is not me trying to, I am a believer, I'm a Christian, tongue speaking, demon chasing, all of them combined, right? But then my sense is still intact, okay? To say that certain things that we hold on so much, I'll say is in the Bible, is in the Bible. Are you aware that the Bible is interpreted in the culture of the Jews, which are dominantly the woman subservient culture? And so, if both of you have written down those things and you trace the origin and you see that even these beliefs, none originated from you originally. And so you're asking, do I want to base my life on a thought of a man who wore leaves round his waist? A man who did not know that there was going to be a day that I'll be speaking with you like this, and they're not going to say it's the gods that have come to destroy us. So you want to decide that. Then you will now ask yourself, what must we believe? How can we align this belief in this present time to serve our both needs? So this is what I want in marriage. This is what you want. We form a unified vision. What do we have to believe for this vision to come to pass? That's the belief you should adopt. Provided the beliefs is serving both of you, and you have chosen to sit on the driver's seat of your life and not be driven by the desires of your forefathers, and even a culture of biblical times, which you have not even studied. Because if you go deep down to study some cultures in the Bible, you'll be wondering, okay, calm down. Or did they say the Holy Spirit inspired this one? Because this is clearly a Jewish man talking. So identify those conflicting beliefs, trace the origin, choose, remind yourself of your marital vision, what you want to achieve together, and adopt beliefs that align for both of you that can take you there, and choose to sit on the driver's seat of your life so that you can achieve your desired marital goals. I think I answered that question.
Yes, you have. You have. Thank you so much. We have just one more question before we call it a day.
Okay.
How do you handle a Gen Z that always complains, I'm depressed and not ready to speak out or see a professional?
Okay, Gen Z is always complaining, I'm depressed, I'm not ready to speak or see a professional. So I'm going to take it in different ways. That parent, I better be an informed parent. Informed parent in the sense that you are aware of certain things. That's why I said conversations like this become normalized. And so if somebody is saying I'm depressed and you want to say, so talk to me, when you say you're depressed, what do you mean? Because you're trying to understand, could it just be this mental health jargon language that is going up and down? I mean, my daughter said to me when BTS was disbanded because they had to go to the army, right? I said, oh, I'm depressed. I'm like, okay, calm down. What's happening right now? Oh, my bias is going to the army. And I'm saying, so how does that make you feel? Oh, I feel sad. Then I know it's depressive moods and that sense of not seeing her team together. We all have depressive moods. So that may not be depression, but I'm aware to ask the right questions to know what is happening. Secondly, so you might begin to, the next thing is to now have that conversation and let the person start even talking about the things that are supposedly depressing them. So get them to write it down, get them to talk about it, have conversations around it, associated with conversations. So, okay, like when you say you're depressed, what does it mean? The person says, what are you not able to do? Because you are checking to see that has it gotten to a stage where it is impacting the normal, optimal functioning of the person. So is the person losing sleep? Is the child losing concentration in schoolwork? All of those things are markers as to what could be happening, which was why I said the parent had better be informed, because you now want to begin to have conversations around what is depression. Depression is on the spectrum of sadness, where it goes from sadness, and you're depressed when you're feeling a sense of helplessness in dealing with an issue that is heightened by thoughts that judge you. But if the parent does not know this, so if that person is not going to see a specialist, can the person read materials? Is the issue, I don't want to sit with somebody, but can you do a self-paced help? Can you get a book around emotions and feelings that is age appropriate? And then you show up to read the book with the person. So we read, we share ideas, because remember, self-awareness is where the healing starts from. Because all the work the therapist is going to do with the child is to get the child to be aware of the patterns that predispose him to the depression and teach him self-care tips that can, alter it. So if the child can resource it themselves, fine, but you have to be there as a guide. Again, in addition to that, I'm also curious. I'm also curious, why doesn't the child want help? Because we need to also find out what is help? What does help mean for you as a family? Like, does the person see, if they take me to see a therapist, that means there's something wrong with me? How has help? What's the meaning of seeking help that is institutionalized in your family? Does the child see you even as a parent getting help when you need help? Or have you raised the child in an environment where we all bottle our things up, there's a secrecy and all that, and suddenly you want to throw the person to the outer world to find help? So whilst you're doing the internal help you're doing with the person, you need to also understand, why is the person averse to getting help? So that's another line of conversation. So how you bring up the conversation becomes important. Okay, so if we're doing this and I'm saying like, oh, from our conversation, I think this is beyond what I can deal with, why don't you want to talk to somebody? And you listen, because first of all, there must be that safe space place where your child can share with you what they're dealing with and all that. I have also seen practically that children who are dealing with, particularly adolescents, who are dealing with social anxiety, even though help is normalized in their family, may be averse to seeking help, because that seeking help forces them to speak with somebody, which is something they're avoiding. So is your child in the freeze a typical trauma response for your child, where they disassociate and shut down? And so if it's that, not seeking help is a secondary problem. The main problem is the social anxiety. So whilst you are helping the child to find help for the depression in-house, you want to deal with the thing that is feeding the not wanting to get help. I hope I made simple sense. Like you're able to relate, because I'm trying to juggle a lot of things, but I'm hoping, where's that person? Oyilola, I hope this made some connection for you and you know some places you can start from.
Thank you so much. Wow, this is a loaded session. Thank you, Dinma, Queen of Happiness. I'd just like us to go into the chat. I know we've done a lot, hailing her. Thank you. Well done. Let's still do that again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's the emojis start rolling in. Let's love on Dinma for, taking time out this afternoon to just excuse me, spend this time with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And this brings us to the end of our session today. I'll hand over to Motolani to just take us through the end. Thank you once again, Queen. God bless you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.